The afternoon sun touched the glass doors of the flagship branch and turned them into warm mirrors. David Cole paused a moment before entering. He adjusted his simple cap and looked like any calm customer, not the person who signed paychecks for thousands of employees. He preferred quiet clothes and quiet steps. He liked to watch how places worked when no one knew him. He opened the door, let the cool air wash over him, and joined the short line with a soft smile. Inside, the lobby felt busy but controlled. A printer hissed softly. Phones rang from desks behind the glass. The floor tiles were clean and bright. 2 tellers were working at the counter, and a third helped an elderly couple at the customer care station. A security guard stood near the entrance with friendly eyes. David took a small paper ticket from the stand and waited near a sign that said, "Please have your ID ready." He already had his wallet in his hand. David was not in a hurry. He had a meeting on the other side of town later in the day. He was early for it and decided to visit this branch because he believed leaders should feel real service the way customers did. He did this sometimes. He never announced it. He never asked for special attention. It taught him more than any report ever could. He could see how training turned into action, how policy turned into kindness, or into coldness. A mother in line ahead of him kept a toddler calm with a snack. An office worker tapped a foot, glancing at the time on her phone. A man in a work jacket counted envelopes. The teller on the far left, a young woman with a neat bun and kind eyes, worked quickly but did not rush people. When it was her turn to call the next number, she lifted her head and smiled. Number 42. David checked his paper slip and stepped forward. "Good afternoon," she said. "How can I help you today?" "Good afternoon," David answered. He placed his wallet on the counter and spoke in a gentle tone. "I'd like to make a cash withdrawal from my personal account, please." "Of course," she said. "May I see your bank card and a photo ID?" He slid out his bank card and a driver's license. "Here you go," he said, and then added his passport as well. "And here's a second ID, just in case." "Thank you," she said. Her name badge read Marcia. She ran the card, typed his details, and looked at the screen. "What amount would you like to withdraw?" David told her the number. It was not unusual for someone in his position, and it was well within daily limits for verified account holders. Still, he expected the standard checks. He liked seeing those checks, because they kept money safe for everyone. Marcia nodded and continued. She asked 2 security questions that the system suggested. David answered both easily. She compared the signature on his license with the one associated with his account. She was thorough, not suspicious, and her tone stayed warm. "Thank you, Mr. Cole," she said, sounding satisfied. "The system is asking me for a manager override because of the amount. That's normal. I'll just call my manager over to complete the process." "No problem at all," David said. He stood straight and relaxed. His hands rested on the counter. He could feel the quiet strength of good process working step by step. Marcia pressed a button on her screen and lifted a small flag to signal her manager. In the glass office behind the counter, a man in a fitted suit looked up from his desk. He had sharp hair and a silver tie clip. He walked out with quick steps, glanced across the lobby, and approached the station. His name badge said Greg Sanders. He gave Marcia a brief nod and then looked at David. "Override?" Greg asked, eyes already moving to the computer. "Yes, please," Marcia said. "Mr. Cole has provided card and 2 photo IDs. I've completed the questions. Everything matches. We just need the manager confirmation." Greg reached for the driver's license and the passport. He held them both up to the light. He did not look at the details for long. He did not ask the usual follow-up questions. He did not check the enhanced verification tool that Marcia's station offered. His eyes returned to the screen. David waited, calm and silent. "What's the withdrawal amount?" Greg asked. Marcia told him, clearly and softly. Greg said. He set the IDs on the counter, but not in the careful way Marcia had used. He tapped his finger near the card and then pulled his hand back. "We cannot process this today." Marcia blinked. "Is there a problem with the documentation?" she asked carefully. "I completed the identity check. The account is in good standing." Greg gave a short sigh. "It's my call," he said. "We're not doing it." David met Greg's eyes. His voice stayed steady. "May I ask which policy is blocking the withdrawal?" "We're not doing it," Greg repeated, louder this time. He motioned toward the security guard with a small tilt of his head, not a full sign, but enough for people nearby to notice. The guard, Omar, did not move closer, he only watched, alert but calm. David kept his tone even. "I understand you have a right to review or delay a transaction if there is a clear reason. I'm happy to follow any steps you need. Could you please tell me the reason and which section applies?" Greg leaned on the counter. "It doesn't feel right," he said. "Sometimes you can just tell. And I'm saying no." A small hush touched the line. The mother gave her toddler another snack. The office worker looked up from her phone. The man in the work jacket frowned, then looked away. People sensed the moment, even if they did not understand it. Marcia's expression stayed professional, but a tiny crease of worry formed in her forehead. "Sir," Marcia said to Greg in a respectful voice, "we also have the enhanced verification tool. It can confirm identity in seconds using the internal directory. We can run that if you want additional assurance." Greg waved the idea away with two fingers. "I said we're not doing it." David's face did not change. He put a hand lightly on his passport, not to pull it away, but to show he was present and steady. "I'm willing to wait," he said. "If you prefer a private room to discuss this, I'm happy to step aside. I don't want to take up the counter if there's a process we can follow." Greg did not look toward the private rooms. He glanced at the growing line, then at Omar again. "No. We're done here." Marcia's eyes flicked between David's IDs and the monitor. She looked like someone trying to keep a door from swinging shut. "I believe the documentation is valid," she said, still speaking to Greg. "The system shows everything matches. If we run the enhanced verification, we can be 100% sure. It will also allow us to complete the override for the amount." Greg shook his head once. "I won't authorize it." David's voice remained friendly. "Would you be willing to place a call to the regional support line? The handbook suggests we escalate when a customer requests it, especially when documentation is complete. I'm only asking that we follow the book." Greg's jaw tightened. "We are following the book," he said. "My book." The words sat in the air, heavier than he probably intended. The lobby felt even quieter, like someone had turned down a dial. Omar's posture shifted, not aggressive, only attentive. He understood that something was happening that was not typical. "Sir," Marcia tried again, carefully, "for compliance, if we refuse a verified transaction, we should record the specific reason and the policy reference. May I log the reason in the system?" Greg's eyes flashed for a second. "Log that I refused it," he said. "That's the reason. Manager discretion. Now close the request." David took a small breath. He thought of the values he wrote into the company handbook many months ago. He thought of the training sessions he had asked every leader to complete, line by line. He never wanted any person to feel small or pushed aside, not in a place where they trusted their money. He did not feel angry. He felt clear. "Thank you, Marcia," he said softly. "You've been very professional and kind." Marcia lowered her gaze for a moment. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, Mr. Cole," she said. She sounded sincere. David looked back at Greg. His voice stayed level, but now it carried a gentle firmness. I'm asking one more time. Please tell me which policy prevents you from processing a withdrawal for a verified account holder who presented 2 forms of ID and passed the security questions. Greg placed both hands flat on the counter. My policy, he said. And that is final. David nodded slowly. He did not argue. He did not raise his tone. He gathered his bank card and IDs with quiet hands and placed them back in his wallet. Then he looked at Marcia and gave her a thankful nod, the kind you give when someone tried to do the right thing. He turned a little, so his words would not carry across the lobby, and spoke in a low voice that still sounded warm. I appreciate your care, he said to her. Marcia gave a small, almost invisible nod back. Her eyes said she understood more than she could say. She pressed a key to close the active screen, but she did not erase her own notes about the steps she had taken. She documented facts, not feelings. She wanted the record to show that she had followed the path as trained. David stepped away from the counter and moved to a small table near the lobby phone area. He rested his palm on the smooth wood for a moment, centering himself. He looked across the room. He noticed the sign above the hallway to the private rooms. He noticed the reflection of the city afternoon in the glass walls. He noticed the clock on the far wall, its second hand sweeping gently. He had always believed in clocks and in calm. He glanced toward Omar. The security guard met his eyes and gave a respectful, neutral nod, as if to say, I am here to keep things safe. David returned a small nod. He did not want anyone to feel tense. He wanted only fairness. He opened his wallet again to check that all his items were in order. Then he closed it and put it away. He stood there, not angry, not even surprised, just very sure of what this moment showed about culture, training, and the daily choices people make. Back at the counter, Greg straightened his tie and turned to speak to Marcia in a low voice. His words did not carry to the lobby, but his posture said the conversation was not gentle. Marcia replied with short, careful sentences. She did not raise her hands. She did not push back. She stayed steady. She was still serving the next customer, moving with care. A woman in line whispered to the man behind her, he had all the right documents. Why would they say no? The man shrugged and looked down. People in public places see more than we think. They notice tone, not just words. They notice when rules are real and when they are simply someone's mood. David let the murmur of the room wash past him. He did not need the room to be on his side. He did not need an audience. He needed the branch to show who it was. He reached for the small pen attached to the lobby phone counter and rolled it between his fingers. He wondered if anyone would think to offer him a private room, a simple courtesy for a conversation that touched money and identity. He wondered if anyone would choose policy over pride. From behind the glass office, a screensaver bounced softly. The late sun made soft lines on the carpet. A door opened in the back, and someone came out with a stack of forms. The life of the branch went on. But the feeling had changed. It was like the air had a question in it that had not been answered yet. David looked once more at the clock. He took a quiet breath and made a decision about what he would do next. He believed in giving people chances to do the right thing. He also believed that dignity should never depend on guesswork. With that thought, he turned his head slightly, as if to mark the second hand's position in his memory. He did not speak. He did not move toward the door or back to the counter. He simply stood, calm and settled, while the manager's last words still hung in the room like a closed door that everyone could see. The room seemed to hold its breath after the words "my policy." David Cole did not argue. He stood still, letting the moment be what it was. He believed that silence can show who people are more clearly than speech. He looked at Marcia's careful hands, at the screen with the closed request, at the customers waiting with quiet faces. He did not want a scene. He wanted the right process. He turned back toward the counter, gentle in his movement, and spoke in a soft voice that carried just enough. "Sir," he said to Greg, "I respect that you have a duty to protect this branch. I share that duty. If you believe there is a reason to hold the withdrawal, please tell me the reason and the policy reference. If there is a mismatch on the profile, we can correct it. If you need a private room for this discussion, I am happy to step aside." Greg did not step back. He stood at the edge of the station, hands set on the counter, like words were bricks and he was building a wall with them. "I said no," he replied. "That's my decision." Marcia kept her tone even. "We do have the enhanced verification option," she said. "It checks identity against the internal directory in seconds. The training guide says we should use it when there's any doubt. It also says we should offer the private room to protect customer privacy." Greg glanced at her with a quick, sharp look, then at the line. "We are not doing that," he said. "Close the request." A soft murmur moved through the lobby and quieted. People looked back at their phones or papers, but their ears stayed open. The security guard, Omar, stayed in his position, alert and balanced, not tense. He respected both customers and staff. He knew that strong service did not need loud voices. David breathed in slowly, then let the air go. He kept his voice kind. "Would you please note the denial with a specific clause," he asked, "so I can understand what to fix? If there's something that looks unusual, I would like to make it simple for your team. I am also formally requesting a call to the regional support line. The handbook says we can escalate when a customer asks and the documentation is complete." Greg spoke like the steps were too small for his time. "No escalation," he said. "I'm the escalation." Marcia's fingers paused above her keyboard. She looked at the screen, at the policy prompt that had appeared earlier, at the icon that offered the enhanced check. She wanted to help, but she also knew her place in the branch. She stayed professional and ready. David nodded once. His eyes were calm, but there was a quiet light in them. "I want to make sure I understand," he said. "You are refusing the transaction, even though the account is verified, 2 IDs are present, the security questions are answered, and the enhanced check is available. You are also declining the private room and the escalation call." "That's correct," Greg said. "We're done." David turned his head a little, like he was listening to a thought. He did not frown. He did not raise his voice. He let the next words come out plain and gentle. "All right," he said. "Then could I please have your business card for my notes?" Greg did not offer a card. He pointed at the name on his badge instead. "You can see my name," he said. "That should be enough." Marcia made a small movement, as if she might open a drawer and find a spare card for her manager, but she stopped. She could not act against a direct signal like that. She kept her eyes on the monitor so she could remain steady. She pressed a key that saved her internal notes. Customer presented 2 valid IDs. Security questions passed. Manager refused withdrawal. Enhanced verification suggested by teller, not used. Private room offered, declined. Escalation requested by customer, declined by manager. Omar took a step closer to the middle of the lobby, not toward the counter, simply to place himself where he could help if anyone needed directions. His face was neutral. His body language said, "Everything is safe, this is a conversation." A woman in a gray blazer at the back of the line looked up. "Why would they not even check?" she whispered to the man beside her. He shrugged again, uneasy with the feeling that fairness had been set aside. People want to trust the rules. They want to believe the rules are for everyone. David's voice stayed kind. "Would you prefer," he asked, "that I return later with additional documents?" I can bring any proof you require: utility bills, corporate identity confirmation, anything that would help you feel comfortable. I am happy to make this easy. Greg shook his head. No, not today. Understood, David said. He took a very small step back to make room for the next customer. He looked at Marcia, and his eyes were full of thanks. You were careful and respectful, he told her softly. Thank you. Thank you, sir, she said with a sincere, quiet tone. She looked like she wished she could do more, but also knew she had done the right steps. Her work was to be both kind and exact. She had been both. David turned slightly toward the lobby phone area again. The light from the tall front windows made small rectangles on the floor tiles. He touched the pen on the small table and placed it back. He stood there with his hands at his sides and his thoughts very clear. He remembered how he had helped write the lines in the training guide about dignity and privacy. He remembered how proud he had been when the branches rolled out the enhanced verification tool, because it made things simple and safe. And he remembered saying in a leadership meeting, respect is a policy. We don't make people guess. He did not speak these memories aloud. He simply let them sit with him as he watched the branch move. 2 tellers processed deposits. Someone at customer care learned how to reset a mobile app password. A courier signed a clipboard and left. Everything normal, everything routine. Only one thing felt off, and it was not the software or the walls. It was a choice. Marcia's next customer, the man in the work jacket, greeted her in a soft voice. He slid a stack of envelopes across, and she counted them with care. Her rhythm stayed steady. She was a professional. Still, her eyes kept a quiet note of concern, the kind of concern that lives in people who like things to be fair. Greg stepped back to his glass office and stood with his hands in his pockets, watching the floor. He looked like someone who had made a hard call and wanted the room to accept it. But the room did not argue. The room only went on. Life in a bank is built of repeating steps. Those steps either lift people or make them feel smaller. That truth is simple. David believed in simple truths. A younger teller at another window, who had watched from the corner of his eye, reminded himself to reread the training manual that night. He wanted to be the kind of person who remembers the exact section when it matters. He wanted to be like Marcia, warm voice, exact notes. A small clock near the lobby phone area ticked in clean, steady beats. David looked at it. He was not impatient. He never wanted his team to hurry at the cost of safety. But he wanted them to honor the policy they all promised to follow. He wanted words like please, thank you, and let's check to be normal here, not rare. His phone rested in his pocket. He did not reach for it yet. He gave the branch space. He gave the manager space. Sometimes people correct themselves when given a minute to breathe. Sometimes they remember the right step. He had learned over years that a leader's first tool is patience. His second is clarity. He turned back toward the counter and asked in the same gentle tone, "Sir, would you be open to reconsidering the enhanced check? I am still here and happy to cooperate." Greg did not turn from the glass office doorway. "No," he said. David nodded once, as if noting a final line on a page. Then, with respect, he said softly, "Please consider this a formal request to document the reason and provide a copy of the note. I would like to keep it for my records." Marcia made a careful keystroke and printed a simple slip that showed the transaction reference and a brief note about the refusal. She did not include opinion. She included facts, dates, and times. She slid the slip across to David with a small, respectful motion. He accepted it and thanked her again. "Is there anything else I can help you with today?" she asked, "because that is what you ask when you serve people, even if the moment is difficult." "You have already helped," David said. "Thank you." He looked once more at Omar. The guard gave him the same neutral, respectful nod. It said, "I see you, and I am here for safety, not for sides." David appreciated that. He believed in roles. He believed in doing your role with care. The lobby felt quiet again. The day outside moved on, traffic, sunlight, people crossing at the corner. Inside, the bank kept its rhythm, stamps, screens, signatures. David felt a small weight settle in his chest, not heavy, more like a reminder. Culture is what people do when no one is watching. Training is what they do when there is stress. Respect is what remains when pride is loud. He drew a breath and let it out, as if letting go of dust on a windowsill. He did not want anger to live here. Anger fogs vision. He wanted the air to be clear so actions could be clear. He accepted the slip, placed it in his wallet, and closed it. His mind was simple and steady. He would act, but he would not make a show. He would use the same tools the company asked everyone to use: escalation, verification, and facts. He took 2 steps toward the small table again, as though the wood could hold the moment for him while he chose his next move. He did not rush. He looked at the clock and at the sweep of the second hand. He thought about the teams he had met in other branches, teams who had used the private room without being asked, who had run the enhanced check on their own when something felt unusual, who had said, "Let's make sure we get this right." He thought about the promise of the bank's name on the wall: safety, service, fairness. He turned slightly so that his voice would carry in a gentle way, not a loud way, and he spoke to the air, to the moment, to the choice in front of them all. "All right," David said, with the same soft smile he had worn when he walked in. 9 minutes. The word 9 minutes hung in the air like a soft bell that only a few people heard. David Cole walked to the small phone area near the lobby, beside the sign with useful branch numbers. He did not rush. He checked the clock again and noted the position of the second hand. He liked exact times. He believed that fairness should have a clock and a record, not a guess and a mood. He took out his phone and pressed a number he knew by heart. When the call connected, his voice stayed gentle. "Hello, Lydia," he said. "It's David. I need a real-time ethics review opened, and I need it to reference this branch and this hour. Please include that the customer provided 2 forms of ID and passed all security questions, and that the manager refused both the private room and the escalation call. Add that the teller suggested the enhanced verification tool but was blocked." On the other end, Lydia Mensa, the chief HR officer, answered in a calm, clear tone. "Understood," she said. "I'm opening a case now. Please hold for the case number." Her keyboard sounds came through the line like soft rain. "Case number HR 1129 AC, timestamp 2:17 p.m. I am attaching the handbook sections on required escalation and privacy for sensitive transactions. Do you want a real-time identity ping to the branch directory?" "Yes, please," David said. "Enable the executive identity ping for this branch for the next 30 minutes. Make sure the teller can run the enhanced verification from the station. Also flag the training reference for the manager on duty." "Done," Lydia said. "The directory ping is active. The teller's screen will show a secure verify icon. I can join on video for a neutral record if needed." "Stand by," David said softly. "Thank you for your speed and your clarity." He ended the call, took a slow breath, and pressed another number. This time the line picked up almost immediately. "AK," David said, "are you near the city center?" "Akon by AK Oyalai," the regional director, answered at once, his voice steady and alert. "I'm 10 blocks away," he said. "Traffic is light." "What do you need, sir?" "I need you at the flagship branch now," David replied, still gentle, still even. "Please enter quietly. Ask for a neutral room when you arrive. I want you to observe, not argue. We're going to follow the handbook line by line." "On my way," AK said. I'll be there in under 9 minutes. Thank you, David said. Please bring your copy of the training manual. I want exact lines, not opinions. Yes, sir, AK said. The call ended with the sound of a turn signal, the ordinary, honest noise of someone moving toward a task. David stood still for another second, watching the room the way a teacher watches a class, not to control, but to understand. He placed his phone in his pocket and walked back to the counter with quiet steps. He did not go to Greg. He went to Marcia, who had served him with care from the first moment. Marcia, he said in a calm voice, would you please check your screen? You should see a secure verify icon for enhanced identity confirmation now. Marcia looked down at her monitor. A small icon pulsed in the corner, the one she had tried to use earlier. She glanced up, surprised but composed. Yes, I see it, she said softly. We can run the enhanced verification. Let's do it, David said. I am happy to cooperate. Marcia followed each step as she had been trained, exact and respectful. She asked him to hold his driver's license so the camera could capture the details clearly. She confirmed his account number by having him read only the last 4 digits. She typed a short note, customer consents to enhanced verification. Then she tapped the secure icon. For a heartbeat, the screen showed a circle moving in place. The system reached into the bank's internal directory, matched documents, matched profile, matched signatures, matched known device history. The circle turned into a green banner. The banner used simple words, no excitement, just truth, identity confirmed. Account, Cole, David. Clearance, executive. A second line appeared with a quiet tone that only the teller could hear, executive account, CEO/chair. Offer private room. Offer respectful handling. Follow escalation policy if requested. Marcia did not startle. She took a breath, and her eyes softened with relief. Not because someone important had appeared, but because truth had arrived. She said in a steady voice, "Thank you for your patience, Mr. Cole. The enhanced verification is complete," and it returned a confirmed match. Omar, the security guard, noticed the small change in Marcia's posture and the quiet green reflection on her screen. He understood enough to relax his shoulders. He kept his respectful watch but now carried a different kind of attention, the kind that says, "We are doing this right." Greg, the manager, saw Marcia's hands hovering near the confirmation button and walked over with quick steps. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice tight. "I ran the enhanced verification," Marcia said, not unkind, not defiant, simply honest. "It returned a full confirmation for Mr. Cole." "We didn't need that," Greg said. "I said to close the request." Marcia stayed calm. "The customer requested escalation and offered a private room," she said. "The handbook allows us to use enhanced verification when there is doubt. The tool is active, and it is designed to help us do our work safely." Greg looked at David. He did not know what to do with the calm eyes that looked back at him without heat. He glanced at the line, then back at the screen, then at Omar, who stood steady in the lobby. He reached for the keyboard like he could pull the screen away from the truth, but Marcia's hands stayed where they were, still, professional, in the right place at the right time. David's voice was soft. "May we move to a private room now?" he asked. "It will protect everyone's dignity. I prefer sensitive conversations to be private." Greg hesitated. The word private had been a closed door for him minutes ago. Now it felt like a logical step. Still, he did not answer. He held his breath as if the air could give him a reason to keep standing still. The lobby did not press him. Customers kept their eyes on their papers, on their phones, on the small things that keep a person's day moving forward. But the room felt different. The mood had changed from confusion to a gentle waiting. It was like the branch itself was ready to be the best version of itself, if someone would let it. Marcia printed the standard slip for enhanced verification and placed it beside the monitor. It was a simple form: date, time, teller ID, tool used, result confirmed. She did not slide it across yet. She would do that in the private room, where names and details belong. She looked at David and said, "Thank you for your patience." Then, quieter, "I'm sorry for the earlier difficulty." "There's nothing to be sorry about," David said, and he meant it. "You followed the steps with care. That's what protects us all." Greg lifted his chin. "This is my branch," he said. "I decide what happens here." David did not argue. "You lead this branch," he said, "and that is important. The handbook leads all of us. That is just as important." He turned slightly so his words would not feel like they were for the room. "Please, let us step into the private room now." Greg opened his mouth to speak again. But a different sound arrived first: the soft hiss of the glass doors moving and the steady steps of a man entering with purpose and calm. AK walked in without noise or show. He wore a simple jacket and carried a slim folder, the training manual that held the words all of them had promised to live by. AK glanced around once, the way a careful person looks at a room to understand it in a second. He saw Marcia's steady hands and the green banner on the screen. He saw Omar's balanced posture and David standing in the open with the same quiet presence he carried into every meeting. He saw Greg at the counter, not in the private room where he should have been when things got hard. AK stepped forward and stopped at a polite distance. He did not raise his voice. He did not say a title. He said a name, and he said it with respect. "Good afternoon, Mr. Cole," he said. A hush rolled through the lobby as if someone had drawn a soft curtain across the room. The mother with the toddler looked up. The office worker stopped tapping her foot. The man in the work jacket held his envelope in still hands. The truth that had glowed quietly on the screen now stood in the room like a person you recognize at last. Greg's eyes moved from AK to David and back again. For a heartbeat, he seemed to look for a different story to stand in. But there was only this one: the simple story of steps offered and steps refused, of a handbook written to keep people safe, and of a moment when the book was either honored or ignored. David gave AK a small nod, the kind that says, "Thank you for coming, and let's stay calm." Then he turned to Marcia with a gentle smile that did not feel heavy, only glad. "Would you mind guiding us to a private room now?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Marcia said. Her voice was warm and sure. She stepped out from behind the counter and opened the door to a small glass office with a round table and 4 chairs. The light was soft there. The noise of the lobby did not follow as loudly. It was a room made for care. Before moving, David looked at Omar. "Thank you for keeping the lobby comfortable," he said. "Please continue as you are." Omar nodded once, the same respectful way he had nodded all along. He did not shift his weight. He did not need to. Safety often looks like stillness. Greg did not move right away. His feet felt heavy against the floor, as if the tiles were asking him a question. He looked at the private room door, at AK's calm eyes, at the green banner still reflected on Marcia's screen. He could choose to walk with them, to let the room become what it should have been from the start. He could choose to name the policy line he had not named before and accept the path that was written for moments like this. David did not push him. He did not speak a hard word. He only waited with grace. Then he took a single step toward the private room with the same quiet confidence he had brought into the branch. The second hand on the clock moved forward, steady and clean. The 9 minutes he had given were almost complete, and they had brought the right people, the right tools, and the right light to the truth. As they reached the doorway, a small beep touched the air. Lydia's name appeared on the tablet in the room, ready to join by video at a gentle volume. She was there to observe, to protect, respect and process, and to help the words in the handbook live in real actions. David paused for a heartbeat and looked back at the lobby, not to own it, not to control it, but to make sure it remained calm and safe. The branch looked back at him with its clear windows and clean lines, waiting for the rest of the story to unfold in the quiet room where dignity sits at the table with everyone. Then he stepped inside, and the door closed with a soft sound, like a promise being kept. The glass door closed with a soft click, and the small room felt calm in a way the lobby could not. A round table sat in the center. 4 chairs waited. A wall clock ticked in steady beats. In the corner, a tablet rested on a stand, its screen glowing with a quiet prompt to join a call. Marcia guided everyone in with a gentle hand. She placed a small folder with printouts on the table and stood a half step back, respectful but ready. David Cole chose a seat where he could see everyone. He did not sit at the head, there was no head. He folded his hands and rested them on the table. His posture was relaxed, collected, and kind. AK set his slim folder down and took the chair on David's left. Greg came in last, paused at the door as if it were heavy, then sat down opposite David. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was not empty, it was full of room for the right words to arrive. Marcia tapped the tablet and the video connected. The face of Lydia Mensa, the chief HR officer, appeared in clear light, with a quiet office behind her. She greeted the room with a small, warm nod. "Good afternoon," she said. "For the record, this is case HR 1129 AC timestamp 2:24 p.m. Present in the room, Mr. David Cole, Mr. Akanbai Oyalai, Branch Manager Mr. Greg Sanders, Teller Miss Marcia Patel. I am joining by secure video." David nodded once. "Thank you, Lydia," he said. Lydia's tone was steady and fair. "Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that this conversation is about process, respect, and facts. We will speak in simple steps. We will listen to each other. We will reference the training manual when needed. Our goal is dignity and truth." She looked at Marcia. "Miss Patel, would you please summarize what happened from your station, starting with the customer's arrival?" Marcia kept her voice gentle. "Yes. The customer Mr. Cole arrived and requested a cash withdrawal from his personal account. He presented his bank card and 2 photo IDs. I verified his account details, asked the security questions, and compared the signature. Everything matched. Because of the amount, the system asked for a manager override. I signaled the manager. When the manager arrived, he refused the withdrawal. I suggested using the enhanced verification tool and offered to move to a private room. The manager declined both. The customer requested escalation to regional support. The manager declined. After that, the enhanced verification icon became active on my screen. With the customer's consent, I ran the tool. It returned identity confirmed. Executive clearance. Lydia took notes. "Thank you, Miss Patel. Clear and helpful." She turned her attention to David. "Mr. Cole, do you want to add anything factual before we speak with the manager?" David's voice was calm. "Only that I requested the private room to protect dignity. I asked for the policy line blocking the withdrawal. I received my policy as an answer." Lydia's pen moved once across the page, then stopped. "Thank you." She looked to Greg. "Mr. Sanders, please share your view of the events and your reasoning." Greg sat with his shoulders tight. He looked at his hands, then at the table edge. "My job is to protect the branch," he said. "Large cash withdrawals carry risk. The ID did not feel right." "What was wrong with the ID?" Lydia asked, still gentle, still exact. Greg's eyes flicked up and then away. "The picture," he said. "It looked older. The style of clothes. I had a feeling." AK opened his folder and placed the training manual on the table. He did not push it forward. He rested his fingertips on the cover, respectful. "Mr. Sanders," he said, "please cite the section that allows a manager to block a verified withdrawal based on a feeling, when documentation matches and the customer offers enhanced verification." Greg did not answer. He seemed to search his mind for a page, a line, a lifeline. The room stayed kind. No one raised a voice. No one rushed him. The clock ticked softly. Lydia gave a small nod and continued, "Let's walk through the steps. Our handbook, section 3.1, says when a transaction involves sensitive personal data, we offer a private room upon request. Did you offer the private room?" "No," Greg said. Section 4.2, Lydia said, requires escalation to regional support when a customer requests it and documentation is complete. Did you make that call? "No," Greg said again. Section 7.0, Lydia continued, allows the enhanced identity verification tool when there is doubt. Miss Patel suggested it. Did you approve its use? "I said no," Greg replied, softer now. "Thank you," Lydia said. Her tone did not change. It held the same soft firmness as before. "I appreciate your honesty. The facts are clear. A customer presented 2 IDs, passed security questions, and offered to use a private room. The teller recommended enhanced verification. The customer requested escalation. You declined all 3 steps without citing policy." Greg sat back, as if the chair could hold the weight he felt. "I was protecting the bank," he repeated, but the words had less air now. David spoke, and his words came out like clean water. "Protecting the bank is the heart of our work," he said. "We protect it with good process. Good process protects us from our feelings. It keeps customers safe and it keeps us safe. It brings dignity into the room, even when the room is busy." AK opened the manual and slid it forward so the book lay open between them. "We all signed this," he said simply. "Not as a formality. As a promise." Lydia looked at Marcia. "Miss Patel, thank you for following the guide. Please attach your notes and the enhanced verification slip to the case file." "Yes," Marcia said. She placed the printouts and her written notes in a neat stack on the table. Then she sat quietly, hands folded, not seeking attention, simply present. Lydia turned back to Greg. "Mr. Sanders, this is a moment for clarity. Do you now agree that the correct steps would have been to move to the private room, run the enhanced verification, and, if requested, call regional support?" Greg nodded once. "Yes. Do you understand that saying my policy is not part of our training, our culture, or our rules?" Lydia asked. "Yes," Greg said again. His voice was very small now. He looked tired. Not because anyone had attacked him, but because the truth, when it finally sits down, asks for space. David did not look pleased or angry. He looked steady. "Mr. Sanders," he said softly, "I appreciate the work you have done to make this branch fast and clean. I can see a lot of good in this team. That good matters. But one moment can break trust. And one moment can rebuild it, if we choose the book over our pride." AK closed the manual with a quiet thud that did not sound harsh. "There is a process for this," he said. "We will follow it?" Lydia nodded and read from her notes. "Given the facts confirmed by both staff and systems, and given the refusal to use required procedures when requested, the company will remove the manager from duty, effective immediately, pending final review. This is not about punishment, it is about culture and safety." Greg looked up. His eyes did not fight. He seemed to recognize the words he had set in motion when he refused the simple steps. "I understand," he said. David kept his tone warm. "This will be done with respect," he said. "No one here will raise a voice or make a show. You will hand your badge to the regional director. You will gather your personal items with a colleague present, quietly. There will be no scenes in the lobby. Dignity is for everyone, even now. AK reached across the table, palm open. It was not a demand, it was an invitation to follow the next step. Greg looked at the hand, then at the badge on his jacket. He unpinned it, held it for a second, and placed it in AK's hand. The gesture was simple and human. No one gasped. No one smiled. The clock went on with its soft work. Lydia's voice stayed even. I will email you the formal notice and your rights in this process, she said to Greg. You will have the chance to respond in writing. If you wish to share context we have not heard, you may do so. But for today, your duty at this branch ends now, and it ends with your dignity intact. Greg nodded. Thank you, he said, and those two words, unexpected words, carried a small honesty in them. Sometimes even hard moments can hold a little grace. David turned to Marcia. Miss Patel, he said, you did the right thing. Thank you for offering the private room and the enhanced verification. Thank you for staying kind. Please process my withdrawal now, here in the room, so we keep privacy until the end. Marcia's relief showed only in a softer breath and a steadier hand. Yes, Mr. Cole, she said. She moved her small folder forward. I have the enhanced verification slip, the transaction reference, and the confirmation steps. I will count the cash in the privacy kit and have you sign the receipt. Is that acceptable? It is, David said. AK stood and looked at Greg. I'll walk with you to collect your personal items, he said, the same way he might say, let's step into the hallway for a minute. No judgment. Just the next step. Greg rose. He paused and looked at Marcia. I'm sorry, he said. The words were quiet, and they mattered. Marcia nodded once and replied with the same kindness she had offered all day. Thank you, she said. AK and Greg left the room together. The door closed behind them, and the lobby hum filled the edges of the silence for a moment before fading again. Lydia remained on the tablet screen. Miss Patel, she said, please proceed. Marcia opened the privacy cash kit, counted carefully, called out each count in a soft voice, and placed the notes on the tray. David watched with the same calm attention he would give to any part of the work. He signed the receipt, reviewed the transaction reference, and placed the slip in his wallet with the earlier printout. The order of the papers mattered to him. It was a story told in the right sequence. Thank you, he said. Perfect. Lydia took a breath that sounded like a room being aired out. I will send a region-wide memo today, she said. It will share 3 reminders. 1. Offer the private room when a conversation touches identity or large cash. 2. Use the enhanced verification without delay when there is any doubt. 3. Escalate when a customer requests it and documentation is complete. The memo will thank this branch for modeling the steps with care and will not mention names. That's good, David said. Add a line, please, respect is not extra. It is policy. I will, Lydia said, a small smile touching her eyes. David looked at Marcia. Please note a commendation in your file for today, he said. Your calm protected the bank and the customer at the same time. Marcia's eyes warmed. Thank you, she said, the words round and sincere. David placed the counted notes in his wallet and set the wallet down. He looked around the small room. He saw the clock, the tablet, the soft light on the table. He thought about everyone in the lobby, the mother with the toddler, the office worker with the fast food, the man with the envelopes. He wanted them to leave believing that a bank is a safe place, not just for money, but for a person's dignity. AK returned after several minutes, quiet as before. All set, he said. The manager has handed in his badge, gathered his personal items with a colleague present, and exited through the side door. There was no disturbance. Thank you, David said. Lydia closed her notes. I'll file the case and send a follow-up. Anything else you want recorded? Yes, David said. He looked at each face in turn. Record that the teller demonstrated training excellence. Record that the security guard maintained respectful calm. Record that the branch will host a refresher session this week, attended by regional leaders, to model good practice in real time. Noted, Lydia said. I'll schedule it. David stood, and the others stood with him. He gathered his wallet and the receipt, and slipped his cap back into his hand. He paused at the door with a soft smile. Thank you, Lydia, he said. Thank you, Mr. Cole, she replied, and the tablet screen went dark. They stepped back into the lobby. The day looked the same, clean tiles, warm light, quiet lines. But something essential felt different, as if the air had been brushed clear. Omar glanced over, received a small nod from David, and returned it with the same steady respect. David did not make an announcement. He did not need to. He walked to the counter, thanked Marcia again in a voice only she could hear, and then turned toward the doors. Outside, the city moved in its normal rhythm. Inside, the bank had moved closer to the promise written in its handbook. He checked the clock on the far wall one last time. The second hand moved past the same mark he had noted earlier. From the first soft words to this quiet moment, it had been exactly what he promised: 9 minutes for the truth to arrive, 9 minutes for respect to be restored, 9 minutes for the book to do its work. He slipped his cap on, pushed the door open with an easy hand, and stepped into the afternoon with the same calm he brought in, only now, the branch behind him carried a clearer light. Morning light washed over the city the next day, warm and steady, like a clean page waiting for careful words. Inside the flagship branch, the lobby looked the same: glass doors, neat counters, a soft hum from the printers, but the feeling in the air had changed. It was lighter, clearer, as if someone had opened a window and let in better habits. Marcia arrived early. She placed her bag in her drawer, straightened her station, and took a breath that felt new. She tilted the small mirror on her desk, not for style, but to check her calm face. She wanted to carry the same steady kindness she had carried the day before. Omar greeted her with a nod from the entrance. "Good morning," he said, the words as balanced as his posture. "Good morning," she replied. "How's the day?" "Quiet." "The best kind of safe," he said. She smiled at that. A quiet, safe day was a good promise in a bank. At 9, an email arrived on the branch computers with the subject line: refresher, privacy, verification, escalation. It came from Lydia and was copied to AK and all branch leads. The message was short, simple, and exact. It reminded everyone of 3 steps: offer the private room when identity or large cash is involved, use the enhanced verification tool when there is any doubt, honor a customer's request for escalation when documentation is complete. At the bottom, there was one extra line that made Marcia's eyes warm: respect is not extra. It is policy. Right after, a second email arrived from the regional team, announcing a short training session that afternoon. "We will review the steps in a live setting," it said. "We will thank team members who model best practice." The email did not mention names or yesterday's event. It did not need to. It spoke to the future, not the past. By 10, the lobby filled in with the slow rhythm of a weekday morning. A teacher came to deposit grant checks. A small restaurant owner asked for rolled coins. A young couple opened a joint account and took a picture of their little card folder like it was a new key. At Marcia's window, people found a soft voice and exact steps. She offered the private room twice that morning. One customer accepted, one declined. Both thanked her. "I didn't know that was an option," one said. "It always has been," she replied, and the customer smiled because the answer was simple and kind. At noon, AK arrived with a small case under his arm. He greeted the team, shook Omar's hand, thanked the tellers for their steady work, and asked the assistant manager to gather everyone in the conference area. When Marcia stepped in, she saw a whiteboard with 3 words at the top: dignity, clarity, process. AK wrote below them, "We do these when no one is watching." The assistant manager passed out copies of the training manual with sticky notes pressed to the key sections. The pages felt like tools, not rules. AK did not lecture. He asked questions. "When do we offer the private room?" he said. A teller raised his hand. "When a conversation touches identity or large cash, and whenever a customer requests it," he answered. "Offer, don't force." "Good," AK said. "Why do we use enhanced verification?" "To protect everyone," Marcia replied. "It confirms identity quickly." It turns doubt into a clear answer. "An escalation?" AK asked. The assistant manager spoke up. "We call regional support when the customer asks and documentation is complete. It isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign of respect." AK nodded and smiled once. "Exactly. We use tools, not feelings. We follow the book, not our mood." He walked them through a short role play. A team member acted as a customer with questions. Another played the teller. Marcia played herself. The assistant manager played the regional support line. It was light and friendly, but exact. They practiced offering the private room: "We can continue here, or we can step into a private room if you prefer." They practiced using enhanced verification: "With your consent, I can run our faster identity check." They practiced escalation: "I'll call our regional support now and loop them in." It usually takes just a moment. When they finished, AK closed the marker and looked at Marcia. "Miss Patel," he said, "thank you for how you handled things yesterday. You followed the steps and kept the room kind." He turned to Omar. "And thank you for your balance. Safety without pressure is a skill." He handed both of them small cards that read, "Commendation, Culture in Action," with the date written in neat ink. They were not gift cards. They were not loud awards. They were simple notes to keep in a drawer and look at on hard days. Later that afternoon, a courier delivered a small envelope addressed to Marcia. Inside, she found a short handwritten note on heavy paper. The handwriting was neat and steady. "Marcia, thank you for your calm care and exact steps. You protected the bank and the customer at the same time. Please accept this as a note of respect and as encouragement to keep leading by example." David. There was no title under his name. She did not need one to know who had written it. With the note, there was a second card for Omar with the same message written for his role. Marcia brought it to him at the door. He accepted it with a small bow of his head. "I'll keep this," he said simply. "It's a good reminder of what quiet can do." The next week, the branch placed 2 new signs near the counters. They were small and clean. One read, "Private room available, just ask." The other read, "Verification tools protect you, we use them with care." Customers noticed. A woman who had been nervous about sharing her address in a busy lobby smiled when a teller pointed at the first sign. A college student who had lost his wallet was relieved to see the second. "I thought this would be really hard," he said, "but you made it simple." Across the city and beyond, the memo spread. Branches added short reminders to their team huddles. Managers rehearsed the line, "Respect is not extra. It is policy." Regional leaders asked teams to share small stories each week of moments when the private room, the enhanced check, or escalation protected someone. Those stories were not about problems. They were about praise: a quiet room that let a person breathe, a quick confirmation that saved someone time, an escalation call that kept a conversation fair. They were the kind of stories that do not make headlines but make people trust a little more each day. As for Greg, his process moved forward with the same quiet respect that had filled the small room. He received the formal notice, the list of his rights, and the invitation to send context if there was something he needed to share. He met with HR in a private space, not at a counter. He was not shouted at or shamed. He learned, in careful words, why my policy does not belong in a place built on shared rules. It was not an easy week for him. But on the last day, before leaving the building after his final meeting, he stopped at a window and watched the lobby for a minute. He saw a teller offer a private room. He saw a customer nod with gratitude. He saw Omar's even balance and the small sign that said, "We follow policy, with respect, for everyone." He put his hand on the cool glass, just for a second, like a quiet apology only the wall would know. David did not tell that part of the story to anyone. He carried no wish to make a lesson out of a person. He cared about the branch, the customers, the team, and the promise on the wall. A week later, he visited a different branch in a different part of the city. He wore the same simple clothes and stood in the same kind of line. The teller there offered the private room before he asked. She used the enhanced verification tool without being prompted. When he requested escalation just to test the system, the manager made the call with professional calm and documented the reason. David left with a small smile. Sometimes change takes time. And sometimes it takes a clear 9 minutes and then a broom that sweeps all the way to the edges. He asked Lydia to add one more practice. Every month, one branch would host a short open hour where customers could ask how verification works, why privacy matters, and what to do if they feel unsure. The first open hour drew a few curious faces and a few shy questions. A retired teacher asked, "What if I'm embarrassed to ask for the private room?" The assistant manager said, "We will offer it to you before you need to ask." A college student asked, "What if I don't have two IDs?" Marcia explained the enhanced check, the steps, and the alternatives. People left with small, strong knowledge. Knowledge makes dignity easier. On a quiet Friday evening, the branch team held a short huddle before closing. The assistant manager thanked everyone for their patience during the refresher week. He read the commendation line again and then asked if anyone had a culture in action moment to share. A new teller raised her hand. A man came in looking worried, she said. He had a complicated request and kept saying, "Sorry to bother you." I offered the private room. He relaxed. He said, "Thank you for not rushing me. It took 10 minutes. He smiled at the end and said he felt respected. That's the work, the assistant manager said. That's the promise. They closed on time. Lights clicked off in a calm order. Omar checked the doors and gave his final nod to the empty room. He paused by the sign that said, "We follow policy, with respect, for everyone," and let his eyes rest on the word everyone. He liked that word most. It made the whole sentence honest. Somewhere else in the city, David sat at a small table by a window, looking at a copy of the handbook with sticky notes marking simple lines. He wrote one more sentence on a clean card to add to the front page for new hires: "When you do not know what to do, choose the step that protects dignity." That step will be in the book. He put down his pen and thought about the 9 minutes that had changed a branch without breaking it. He thought about the teller who stayed kind, the guard who stayed calm, the regional lead who brought the manual, and the HR chief who carried fairness in her voice. He thought about customers who would never know the full story but would feel its quiet results in a private room, a green banner on a screen, a quick call to a helpful voice. On Monday morning, he walked past the flagship branch again. He did not go in. He did not need to. He looked through the glass for a second, saw Marcia's steady profile, saw Omar's centered stance, saw a small glow from a monitor as the enhanced verification ran, and felt the kind of pride that doesn't need to be loud. He tipped his cap in a private greeting to the room, like a promise kept. The city carried on. Buses sighed at the stops. Shoes clicked across crosswalks. Sunlight landed on 1,000 small promises written in 1,000 small places. In one of those places, a bank kept its word: respect first, then everything else. And if anyone ever asked how long it took to turn a hard moment into a better habit, the answer would be simple and true. It took exactly as long as it takes a second hand to circle a clock 9 times, long enough for calm to speak, and short enough for dignity to stay in the room from start to finish.